Okay. G'day, everyone. Welcome back. It's my great pleasure to have Jock Doubleday back on the podcast, all the way from Texas, mate. How you going?
Doing very well, Triffin. How you doing?
Man, not too bad. Battling on, is how I would put it. We've just had a bit of an extended discussion before we hit the record button about where we wanted to go this time. We have a loose topic. However, after we've been communicating off the mic since our last conversation, got to know each other a little bit better, and I think there's some darkness around at the moment, mate. There's some darkness that's been clouding us. Probably, obviously, with the whole, the old beer virus, the old coronavirus, it's been a bit interesting. However, it was prior to that as well, and I think it is affecting people on a day-to-day level still to this day, even if we're pretending or trying to pretend to get back to normal, whatever that may mean. I'd love to hear your perspective from the US side of things. Obviously, you're in Texas. Texas is a lot freer than the other states around you. However, from an observational point of view, it seems there's a fair amount of chaos going on in your home country, mate.
Well, I think there's a split, and it's really, really clear now between the people who are fear-driven and the people who simply won't submit to fear. And so I never could submit to fear. In fact, when I was a kid, I remember when I was probably only 6 years old or something, I didn't understand why people were so afraid of everything. And I've never understood this. I mean, literally, there are people that I've met throughout my life, and most of my life's been spent in the United States, who are so driven by fear that they fear everything. I mean, they're walking on eggshells all the time. They're into defensive mode, and I'm never in a defensive mode when I go out into the world. I feel like I want to smile at people. I want to see how they're doing. I want to have a fun conversation. And so I feel like there's right now, when this invented virus is ramping up the fear levels all around the world because people don't know how to do research, then the split in humanity is even more clear. Because they're afraid of something that's invisible and they can't do anything about it. Except maybe if they wear a mask, maybe it'll slow the spread. But the viruses are still there. You better watch out. It's just so ridiculous. Yeah. So I think this split is really, really clear now, and it's like, I'm just watching the show.
Yeah, look, that's a really good point. I've always thought, Jock, that obviously prior to the last 12 to 18 months, however, 9/11 was when the fear-generated society was thrown into high gear. If I remember growing up in the 80s and the early 90s, we knew our neighbours. We'd have barbecues in the street. Like everybody, all that sort of stuff. And then post 9/11. The fear-generated society was created, and I think that observationally, a lot of that type of fear had lost its control, basically, and it became second nature. And then so now we have this invented thing that is fueling that fear. And look, I will admit, only because I have small children and stuff like that, that initially when this thing kicked off last year, we didn't quite know what it was, right? So there was an initial fear response in response to, what am I going to do, look after my family, that sort of stuff, which I think is quite natural. However, it became quite clear that it's bullshit, right? And it smelled like bullshit from the start. And the ongoing control or attempt at control, I mean, we've got our authorities over here begging us to take the vaccination. We're hearing over there that you guys have been given lottery tickets and all sorts of stuff to take the vaccination. Like, I mean, it is beyond the pale of ridiculousness. And I think that what it has done for those that were aware or awake, I do think and I hate, and we're not going to say woke, Jock, okay? We're not, that's not what we're doing that, right? But those that have become more aware, I think more people have woken up, not using that term, the modern term, but literally woken up in the last 12 to 18 months, because it's been quite clear that a lot of it is bullshit.
Right.
And I think that's a really good thing. I suppose my concern is that, is it enough to turn the tide? Is it enough? Is there still going to be enough people marching lockstep down the street? Have we got enough soldiers on our side, I suppose, is the question.
Well, speaking of soldiers, I think that the alliance, which is 17 Western nations, the military insiders from 17 Western nations, from my research, this alliance, which has been in existence for about 50 years to literally take down the fear system and bid it goodbye forever on planet Earth. This alliance is working behind the scenes, and it's not about really what the civilians are doing. We can do our part with local elections or whatever, but or with just our personal habits and our attitudes, but behind the scenes, the powers that be are duking it out, and guess who's winning? Humanity's winning, and the alliance is working for humanity, and the alliance knew they had to be a secret organization because the people behind the dark forces of fear are a secret organization, and so you can't fight a secret organization with a public organization. You have to go secret. So what we see in the newspapers and in the media is just a stage set for really, really great stuff going on behind the scenes, and we're winning so hard right now. I have zero worry about the future. It's just that in this small transition period, months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, whatever, it's going to be a little bit chaotic. So I think that if people do some research into the alliance and into the should I go into the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases being taken back by the alliance. It's a lot of bad things have been happening in these tunnels that the dark forces have created for themselves over time, and they do these genetic experiments in them, and really, really horrific things that I don't want to go into. No. So the alliance is taking back most of those tunnels around the world, and a lot of these lockdowns around the world are actually driven by the alliance, the good guys, the white hats, to keep the civilian populace safe while they go into the DUMBs, reclaim them, free the people who are enslaved down there, and bring humanity back to a goodwill kind of place. So I think we should all be optimistic.
Look, I suppose I am optimistic, mate. I do live in hope, and I think I live in hope because of the recognition that every level of government, every level of any organisation, that has basically now been proved to be bullshit. Okay, most people, even general workaday people, can see that now. All right, I suppose the concern is are they going to try and make us throw bullets at China before the end? That's one of my main concerns, especially down here. We don't have to do that. However, they're going to probably try and make us do that. I do. It's some concerning things happening on this side of the world with that. However, look, we have to. There is so much good stuff. There is, and you can't live in fear. You can't live in fear, especially of something that's invisible.
Right.
And if I think about me and you, Jock, like we become really good mates over the last little while. And we just met each other through Instagram. There are people like us, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't just because we speak the same language. There's people like us all over the planet. Like we just want the same things. We just want everyone to be cool. We just want to try and unravel the mysteries that have been put before us and spread the love. Like that's the reality of what I'm trying to do here with the podcast. I know that's, a lot of your stuff. You're just trying to make people aware and awake and, and embrace the full side of themselves and just to step away from that fear,
Right. Well, as I grew up as a kid, whenever I'd find out something new that was really cool, and as an adult, I looked at it as finding out the truth that was the sort of the obverse of the myth that was given us. In other words, we're taught all these lies. And so when I found out that, it was really not like that, then I would immediately want to share with all my friends this great news, because I was so excited about it. And I think that's generally a common human impulse to share your excitement about what you find out. And so that's why we're here today, I think. At least that's why I'm here, because I'm excited about all the stuff that I've been researching for years. And that it's all new to me, and every single day is an awakening for me. I mean, I always find out something new that blows my mind every single day, and it's been that way for years and years and years. So I'm excited to be here to share the information,
Well, mate, me too. And the reason I got in touch with you is I looked at your stuff and I found it exciting. I think there's something we need to touch on there within that, though, is that one of the human conditions that we seem to be suffering from at the moment is we must take sides, okay? We must put all our stuff in certain belief systems, right? We're very much alike, Jock. When I find out something new, even if it contradicts a belief system that I've had, I think that's fantastic. I think that's excellent. I think, oh, wow, okay. Now I have more evidence to support something. Yeah, okay, I was looking at something the wrong way previously, but I'm not going to now. I'm not going to put my blinders on now because something's been presented to me that gives me another perspective. I'm going to embrace that new perspective, and I'm going to go, wow, that is really cool. And discovery and not tying yourself to ideas and being open-minded, right? I think, when these people are in a survival state, when they're in a fear state, they are closed off, they are closed-minded, and they're not open to ideas, okay? You talk about like the bulk of the stuff that me and you research. I know you do a lot of consciousness stuff as well, but you're into the terraforming and the ancients and all this sort of stuff. This is all fascinating new research, right? And some of it contradicts some of the stuff that I know, but that's interesting to me. I when we actually talked about what we're going to talk about as far as the larger topic for today, I said we might disagree. How cool is that? Because that's a good thing.
It would be amazing if we actually agreed on everything. Where are you going to find two people that agree on everything? It's just a question of having a conversation and present, and in a scientific conversation, presenting evidence. So, I have tons of evidence to present, and people can say, "Oh, well, this can be interpreted in a different way than you're interpreting it," and that's fine. That's a scientific conversation. That's great. I mean, I'm just going to put some evidence out there. You'll bring your evidence. You'll bring your knowledge, and we'll just have a conversation. I mean, that's good.
But isn't that the beautiful thing? I think, and people really need to think about that. They need to think about. I will go out of my way, Jock, to look at things that I disagree with, in order to gain that perspective. Because if you don't, how can you have a complete understanding of any idea if you do not look at going outside of your own box? Okay. Especially when we've been given these amazing tools. I think we brushed upon our last conversation about the internet and social media and all these sorts of things. These things are amazing. Now, you could spend your time getting confirmation bias that you think we're on the back of a turtle floating through an ocean of stars, right? Or you could look at multiple different perspectives, figure out what makes sense to you and run with that. But always be open to different ideas and always be open to different perspectives, And I think choosing sides and, you guys red and blue, and look, we've got all the same crap down here. It's just a different color, It's not helpful to anybody. Because we're all human, Jock. You know, I've taught 5,000 plus students over the last 5 or 6 years from every country on the planet, every color of the rainbow, every religion, every culture. Do you know what I've found, mate? I've found that everybody is just human at the end of the day. That's it. That's it, you know?
Well, when I went to the Bosnian Pyramid Complex in 2011, it was because that summer I'd been on Facebook, you know, floating around and just looking at stuff because I like to learn. So I'm always trying to learn something. And I saw this post on something called the Bosnian Pyramids. And I was like, okay, that sounds crazy. So that was my initial reaction. That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Because why would there be pyramids there? Because everybody knows the pyramids are just in Egypt and Central America and South America, and that's pretty much it. That was my knowledge, that was my understanding, that was my tiny little part of a pixel of information of the TV screen. So to bring your metaphor back in.
Yes, it's a good one.
And yeah. So I took my little pixel and I was going to comment back to the guy, and I was going to say, you know, this sounds crazy. But instead of doing that, I did what generally I do, which is I went to do some research because I thought, well, instead of just saying you sound crazy, Bosnian pyramids, dude, I'll say this sounds crazy, and the reason it sounds crazy is this reason, this scientific reason, this scientific reason, and this scientific reason. So I went to find out why there were no pyramids in Bosnia, so I could tell the guy, and then he'd know not to spread craziness. I went to find out about so I went to find out about the Bosnian pyramids. I found Semir Osmanagic in a 2-hour-long interview, which is probably how long this thing is probably going to go today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about forever.
We do, yeah.
I mean, both of us have a lot of things.
Yeah.
So and he just went through the data. He wasn't like trying to entertain us. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He was just going, here's the data, northern orientation, best orientation of any pyramids north side on the planet. It's 12 times better than the pyramid on the Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau. It's incredibly precise. The different sides of the structures, the tumuli, the round cone shape with the inclined layers. He just went on and on and on. I was like, oh my God. There's an ancient complex in Bosnia. So I didn't go back and say, hey, you dude, you're crazy. I went to Bosnia and I spent 23 months in Bosnia over the next several years, you know?
There you go. But your initial reaction was, that's nuts, you're nuts. That, you know, like this is the,
yep.
And you know, you could have stayed with that too, Jock. You know, you could have just said, oh, well, you know, whatever. But you didn't. You remained open, you did your research, and you found something amazing. And it's changed your life, hasn't it? You know, having that open mind.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes.
You know, that's 10 years now, if you think about that, right? So 10 years ago, you went down a rabbit hole that you still haven't emerged from, you know?
I know, man. I mean, because I didn't know much about ancient history at all, or I had an interest in it, like most people probably have an intuitive interest in knowing what went on in the distant past. But I'd read some books on pyramids, but it was kind of like, oh, that's a book on a pyramid, and you know, there's people who know about that stuff, and when I'm done reading the book, then I go back to my life. But now it's like ancient history has kind of become a big part of my life. And so, the Bosnian pyramids was key. And it was because that guy who he had the heart and the will and the courage to share something that might sound crazy to me and about everybody else on the planet. And he inspired me to go do some research. So he inspired me. That's what it's about. That's why we're on the planet, is to inspire each other, you know?
Spot on, mate. Spot on. Is that, you know, I'll be honest, is that after our last conversation and all that sort of stuff, I've gone back and looked at all my field pictures through your lens, because it's like, hang on a minute, if Jock's seeing some of this stuff in the landscape, what have I taken a picture of that I haven't seen before, you know? And I know that some of the perspectives that I've shared with you, you've gone, hey, wow, that's a different perspective, and that we've helped each other with our own research, even though it's completely separate. but at the same time. I think the key here is just to remain open-minded. And I think one of the sayings I thought about before was that the night is always darkest before the dawn. And I think we may be in some of the darkest places that we've been. However, those that are here now, and look, we could get into some metaphysical stuff. We won't probably do that today. Maybe we'll save that for next time. But I think we're all here today for a reason, okay? Me and you are here today for a reason. Me and you have connected for some reason, whether it just be so I can share your information, you can share my information. We are here to witness it. And if we remain open-minded, not only to the things that we're going to delve down today, but to all things, and remember that we all bleed red, mate. We're all on the same big blue ball hurtling through space, Jock. And if we don't, if we can't realise that and get along and then find our way forward, like I think it's, there's one of those stats that if we took 1% of the global military budget that we spend, that every country spends on whatever, trying to pretend that they're not going to come and take our gold, right? Which is at the end of the day, what's what it is. If we took 1%, we'd already have bases on the moon. We'd already have bases on Mars that people know about, like that. We would already be in the cosmos. We would already have explored our oceans. If we took 1% of the global resources and did something like that, it'd be the world would be a completely different place, And I think it's also the functions of society, Jock. I think we've allowed narcissistic, sociopathic psychopaths to rule the world for the last little while. Okay, if we were in a tribal situation, Jock, so me and you in a tribe, which is where we actually come from, and we probably are sort of in a tribe already globally. But if we're in a tribe in a jungle somewhere, and one of the guys comes out and says, "Right, I'm now the boss of everyone." Okay. Yeah. I'm now the boss of everyone, and I want the biggest hut. Now, I want a hut that's bigger than everyone else's hut. It's got to be 3 stories, right? All the shiny rocks everywhere, they're all mine now, right? If that happened in a tribal situation, do you know what happened to that bloke? That bloke would be taken for a walk, and he'd accidentally fall off a cliff with 3 arrows in his back. That's what would happen.
Yep.
And we can realise that those us that are good and those of us that are true to ourselves and each other, we far outweigh everybody else. And if we could just realise that at once, we can move forward as one. I do believe that.
Yeah, I think the majority are just regular old people, like you said, who want to take care of their families and want to have a nice beer at the end of the day. Or a nice kombucha, and or maybe some cacao. That's how I keep my brain going for these podcasts and radio interviews. Is
cacao's good, man.
Cacao powder.
Yeah, we've got. We've got a place down here in northern New South Wales. They make a turmeric. Was it turmeric and something else? My wife will. I don't know what it is, but turmeric but it's cacao powder, and it's delicious. It's excellent. Yeah, really good stuff. Well, mate, how about we move on?
Yeah. Okay.
What I wanted to do is, because I've got some thoughts about your work. I've got some thoughts about how old I think it is, and I've got some and I know you've got a lot of thoughts about that too. But because we're on a Zoom session, and we'll do our best to make the audio version just as good, but I wanted to do this. So I've got a telescope that I can plug my camera into, my DSLR. Okay. Now, I'm just going to share screen here for a second.
Okay.
Just going to share screen here for a second. Where is that? Why is that not doing that? Hang on a second. There we go. Do that. And I go like this. See, we were supposed to be better at this time, Jock, weren't we? But we're not.
Oh, I mean, I think you were always good at it. You were always good. I was terrible at the share screen. So.
Okay. Righto, mate. Can you share that there, bud?
Yeah.
So what we've got here, everyone, just for those listening at home, is I took a photo of the middle star of Orion's belt, okay? So there's the middle star of Orion's belt you see there at the top there, Jock, and that's none of the other stars down below there.
Okay.
So this one here, we called the mystery star because I wasn't quite sure what it is. That's this one here, right? But what I want to do, and those listening at home, you need to jump on the Zoom session for this one. But I'm just going to expand that, right? So that's a single star that we can see. One of the things that opened my mind that I always come back to is if I go like this, every single one of those tiny little thousands of dots that is on that screen right now is a star. And that's just in our galaxy, man. You know what I mean? We only see stars that are in our galaxy. Like we are on a galactic scale. We are a piece of dust on a piece of dust on the eyelash of the universe, right? Like that. And we need to make sure we have that perspective. Now, in saying that, I think at last count now they're saying that it's about 200 billion planets, and that's billion with a B, planets that are in the Goldilocks zone in our galaxy alone. Okay, so that means that there's, let's cut it in. Let's do 1% of that. So 200 million, okay, of 200 million planets that may have some sort of life that are in the Goldilocks zone similar to us. Now, the last podcast we did was actually about the UFO stuff that's been going on recently, the releases and all the different bits and pieces. And there's another topic of conversation that I'm sure you've got an opinion on. However, I do think we are unique in this cosmos. However, I also think, Jock, that we are a lot older than we could ever begin to understand. I just wanted to show you that one because I knew you'd love this, right? Me and a mate were out the back of about 5 miles from my place, and where they make grass, like lawn. They had like lawn farms, and we set the camera up, 10-second aperture, 10-shot burst, and honestly just hit the button and walked away. And I caught a meteorite tumbling through space just by chance. Now, that is something that can happen just by chance. What are the chances that my camera focused at that point of the sky at that time, at that night, all that stuff? We caught a meteorite tumbling through space. Now, when you think about that and the chances of that, but also the technology that allowed me to do that, then we look at some of the structures around the planet that have been left behind, these mysteries that we think about. Do you think with your work, Jock, that this terraforming stuff, because that's some of the big thing that you're into, do you think that is a time before? Do you think that's a time before a time before? Do you think that's older? Because obviously 70,000 years ago was so obviously 13,000 was the cataclysm. Another one happened 11,600 to make the sun come back out again. But 70-odd thousand years ago, we were taken back. The global population was taken back to under 10,000 people, right? So what was going on prior to 70,000 years? Because some of the projects and some of the stuff that you're talking about, they're gargantuan. Like they are massive. If you talk about terraforming valleys and some of the things you're talking about, do you think that your ancients, okay, so my ancients are prior to the cataclysm, okay? Do you think your ancients are past that? Do you think we're dealing with, I know that's a big question to start off with, but that was my first question that I thought about when you said who are the ancients, because that was the topic, ladies and gentlemen, we started with, was who are the ancients, and I was like, well, I think the megalithic ancients may be different to Jock's ancients, and what's your response to that, bud?
Well, I love those star photos, and speaking of Orion, because you said that top star was from Orion's belt, right?
Yeah, that was the middle star in Orion's belt.
I was just watching today because, I've done some research on giants, human giants that lived on planet Earth, many different sizes of humans throughout the ancient past. And I came upon this video that I had saved by a Native American who was talking about the fact that the Orion's belt and the Pleiades were where the star brothers and sisters came from in the Native American traditions. So these giants, he said, came to Earth, different sizes from different places, and did what they did. I'm not going to go into the details of what he said. And I was even going to maybe see if we could run the video, but then I thought, well, we didn't really have permission. I don't want to get you in trouble for doing that. So I'm just giving you the recap of what he said, which is that every single tribe, every Native American tribe has legends of giants. They all say that they either came from the Pleiades or from the Orion's belt. And then this takes us immediately back to the fact that some of these giants were so big, and I have the evidence, and I'm going to show you the evidence very soon.
Okay.
They were so big that they could not have walked or even moved in today's gravity. So then we go, okay, if that's the case, then how was it that the Earth had lower gravity in the past to allow these giant humans, and by the way, giant animals? I mean, we have the fossil record of T-Rex, we have the fossil record of Allosaurus, Brontosaurus, massive creatures that we know today. The muscle scaling data tells us that they could not have even gotten off the ground to walk in today's gravity. So how was it that today's gravity is so much larger than the past, the gravity in the past? So this is a really key question. So the giants, see, the star picture leads us to the giants from the Native American tradition, and the giants lead us to an Earth that was smaller in the past. And that's really a fruitful place to begin. If you want to.
Yeah, I'm totally up for that, mate. Let's go. However, before you get there, I wanted to give you some confirmation on your research, because the Australian Indigenous creation story is about the Palladians and the Orions as well. And if you start digging into that Palladian and Orion creation story, that actually echoes across more than just North America, Australia. There's actually the basis of many ancient Indigenous cultures is the story that the seven sisters of the Pallades got chased by the brothers of Orion across the sky to here in Australia. Okay, that's basically the story that's here. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to hear if it was to America in there. Like there's different variations there. Have you heard? You heard of a guy called Bruce Fenton? No,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
He is taking this creation story further to actually be like an alternative origin story. All right, there's an excellent YouTube.
That's good.
Excellent YouTube doco done called 780,000. Which was that sort of explained this a lot better. Now, we have talked about this on the podcast before, but for you, mate, just to give you the input data, so basically it's undeniable that there's a thing called Australite tektite. If I knew we were talking about this, I've got a piece of it inside actually. But Australite tektite. Now, there's undeniable evidence that in 780,000 years ago there was something in low Earth orbit. Okay. That basically fell out of the sky, okay? And what it did is it left all these, and the Australite tektite is basically spread across pretty much all of Australia and then some into South Korea, and it is dated back to 780,000 years. Now, Bruce had an experience where it was a psychedelic experience or a transcendent experience where he felt that he was piloting this ship, okay? And it was like a crystal ship, and he was watching this larger ship crash into the Earth. And this other one exploded and basically slowly crashed into the Earth. Now, what he's done is, well, that's a bit of a crazy story. But hang on a minute, australite tektite exists everywhere. And australite tektite, Jock, is silica-based, right? What are we trying to transmit our consciousness onto right now? Silica-based. You know, like that's what they've figured out. That's the best way to communicate consciousness is actually silica or crystal, right? Now, there's a set of stones and stuff down here called the Taringa stones, and I actually had the privilege of sitting in the circle with those Taringa stones and had a very interesting experience. These stones spoke to me, man. They talked to me. And, you know, that's a whole different side. However, basically, there's more evidence for something that's large and silica-based crashing into the Earth 780,000 years ago, and potentially that being those having life forms coming from that. And the story is that they said they couldn't actually really exist on this planet, so they took a hominid and basically created Homo sapiens sapien. And look, we could go into genetics of us and the fact that we are actually very, very different. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that we're actually not from around here. Or that, you know, well, in our bones, Jock, I'm sure you would understand, there's a fair percentage of stardust that comes from somewhere else, right? There's not from here, right? And when we talk about hominids, you know, when you start to get into giants and stuff like that, that's something that us here at Unlocking the Code, we're very fascinated about, because I think at last count, they've got 26 different hominids, but they haven't got a full skeleton of any of them, right? They've got a jawbone, you know, they've got a pinky bone for a Denisovan and a bit of a jaw, right? So that's an entire different race, you know, like, but there is, so let's pretend for a second that they're right. They do have, that they've released that they've got 26 different hominids that have existed on this planet at one time or another. You know, you talk about giants. What about Gigantopithecus? You know, there's still blokes in the bush out in America looking for for Bigfoot, isn't it? You know, I've got actually a mate of mine that spent the weekend the other day looking for a yowie, which is an Australian Bigfoot. Okay, so you know, these stories of these larger hominids echo through time, and if you look at some of the hieroglyphs and some of these ancient pictures on the walls and stuff, you talk about dinosaurs. Have you looked? Here's an interesting rabbit hole. Have you looked at how many different carvings there are of people riding dinosaurs? There's a lot of that stuff out of India. Like, how old are, not necessarily we, because I think we're probably a genetic modification and a different version potentially. However, hominids or different forms of hominids have lived on this planet for who knows how long. In fact, now they don't know where humans came from, because there was something found in Greece a little while ago that was 800,000 years old. There was Homo sapiens sapien bones found in Greece that were 800,000 years old. They found something in Turkey that was, if not as old, older again. There is no actual, the whole we walked out of Africa theory doesn't actually hold a lot of water anymore.
No.
You know, and so it's like, okay, if that's not true, and there's 26 different types, and we don't have a skeleton for any of them, you know, and each turn of the spade changes history, then where do you go from there, you know? And I think just to finish before you get started with your slides, because I'm very fascinated, to talk about one of the other theories that I've thought about is, you know, we've got the planet as it sits, right? We're hurtling through space, okay? Now, I haven't thought about size and shape differentiation, okay? So that's some interesting stuff I'm listening to you. I want to hear you talk about. But what I thought about just anyway was these rocks that come out of the sky, that they come out of the sky pretty periodically, or solar flares or whatever you want to say, right? That is going to affect. So we basically came up with the basketball theory. I don't have my basketball here anymore, where the cataclysm 13,000 years ago, let's pretend that it was fragments of a comet or something like that that smashed, bang, bang, bang into North America that was covered in ice, right? The vibration of that through the planet is actually going to affect and look, let's pretend for a second that cutout that you get in a geology book where the crust, the lava, this, and the big metal ball in the middle, which is just a guess, by the way. They don't actually know that it's not, that no one knows that. That's just a wild guess. But the fact that we do have magnetic fields coming in and around the Earth, if there is a molten core, that's going to chuck vibration through that core. That's going to mess with the tilt of the planet, which may mess with our orbit, which may, and then if you talk about, the Yucatan crater, that amount of mass hitting the planet, like what is that going to do? They theorized that the planet rang like a bell for 1,000 years after that. But what did it do to the mass of the planet? What did it do to our orbit? What did it do to our angle? What did it do to the magnetism, the positive and negative magnetism that we rely on to survive? It's such a fascinating area of study. And when you start delving down into that, it makes a lot of sense because, the fact that it's hot it's actually not the hottest along the equator. That's got to do with the magnetism of the Earth. That's the magnetic field. That's what controls the weather, One of the other pieces of research that I'm delving into as well that is a bit of original part of research is that the ice, there's some other evidence to suggest that the ice chases the poles. So, yes, the ice is shrinking away from the poles because the pole is currently, I think, the North Pole up your end of the world is currently marching into Siberia, and the South Pole is somewhere in the ocean heading towards the ocean on the other side of Antarctica. It's not top and bottom of the planet. And if you look where the poles are, they're getting unprecedented ice growth. And, you think about some of the snowstorms and the record-breaking cold snaps you guys have had in the north, the North Pole is moving south. These things, so many things affect us, Jock. But this blue ball is 4.5 billion years old, if we're to believe the science on that, okay? There's a piece of rock in Western Australia, it's the oldest piece of exposed rock on the planet, is literally 3.5 billion years old, they reckon. How much has happened on this planet? How many times have things happened? One of the guys who contributes to the podcast, Angus, he said one night he has some gold every now and again because we're talking about all the different theories. And he said, what if everybody's right? It's just a matter of timing. Mm-hmm. So every theory is right. It just depends on when you're talking about.
Well, I think there's been so many cataclysms to the smaller planets probably throughout the universe. I mean, so I think all the planets are endlessly getting bombarded by some cataclysm or other, or affected. So there's anthropological evidence, archaeological evidence of another moon having been in orbit around the Earth, and then it was a smaller moon. So there's this calendar gate in Bolivia. It's just that big concrete structure that's cracked a little bit in the middle, and there's all these the pictographs around it, or petroglyphs, I guess, that show us that it's a calendar system, and it talks about how the smaller moon went a lot faster around. It was closer to us. And so then between 11 and 13,000 years ago, a larger moon was brought here by two brothers who rolled it across the Earth. That's the Zuni legend. And so this moon might have been the cause of this astonishing cataclysm that you're talking about, and it might have caused, all sorts of things to fall into our atmosphere and to hit the Earth, or it might have just been the moon itself causing gravitational and electromagnetic changes
Yeah.
that wrought havoc across the earth, and that probably 2-mile high tsunamis and earthquakes and endless volcanoes, the usual.
The usual, yeah.
So that's a possibility. If people want to check out my 2 articles, I've got 2 articles called "Waiting for the Hollow Moon." Go find those. It lists all. It gives you all the data. You can follow the data. You don't have to worry about Jock Doubleday being sane or insane. You can just go follow that data from those articles. It's all linked. Then we've got the inner Earth, which is because there is no molten core according to science. Science is a really great thing, and the universities often ignore their own science and just go with speculation and guesswork. And well, we've been told this, so we're going to go with that. There's a molten core. Well, that's like you said, that's just a theory, but the evidence tells us that there is no molten core. And there's various lines of reasoning, and people can check out my article called "Shielding," which posits that the ancients layered the earth with alternating hard and soft layers across the continents to protect inner earth civilizations, advanced races, as you would put a roof up on your house to protect your house from, a branch falling into your living room. You want a roof. So that's what they did. They made it a strong structure around their home, which was inside. And this inner earth houses things more than humans. It can have housed and might still house dinosaurs. So the dinosaurs that died on the surface, because the surface is a dangerous place, cosmic rays, asteroid bombardments, global flooding, global drought, the list goes on. When the dinosaurs died out from presumably from the asteroid impact 65 million years ago, those larger animals might have still survived in the inner earth, and they might still be in a zoo down there controlled by humans or whoever's down there. So they might still come out, and then you see guys riding dinosaurs, and you're pictured in South America, endlessly pictured in South America, and you're saying in India too, people riding dinosaurs. It's like, well, they might still be in the inner earth, and they come out periodically, and that's another influence. You're talking about all these influences that we have, cosmically, but there's also the influences of the organisms that are coming in or coming out or going back into the inner earth. So I don't know if people want to go with me on the inner earth hypothesis, but there's so much evidence that we have either a hollow or a honeycombed earth. There's different people talking about one saying it's hollow and it's just one large space, and there's others saying no, it's honeycombed. It's probably both. There's probably a large space in there for civilizations to live in, and then there's honeycombed. It's probably honeycombed throughout the levels. In other words, there's different organisms living at different levels, doing their own thing.
Well, look, mate, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, man. Look, that stuff's interesting. One of the term that is running around in my head a lot recently is ultra-terrestrial as opposed to extraterrestrial, right? That, the majority of this, it's not new UFO evidence, but majority of this UAP evidence, as they're saying now, that's coming out now, it's all been seen before, but it seems to be getting a wider audience now, probably really thanks to Joe Rogan, to be honest. However, these things always enter into the ocean, okay? They come out from the ocean, they enter back into the ocean. One of the theories that we talked about in the last podcast was it'd be a good place to hide. Like, say you were a race that lived on this planet, you'd hang around here long enough to realise that there is all these cataclysms. Like you say, droughts, volcanoes, never ends, floods, cyclones, hurricanes, tornadoes, like it never ends, right? I know. If you were smart enough, you'd be like, well, it's probably better to live underground, like there's enough room to live underground. And they keep finding these massive caves, these massive biocultures that exist under the planet that, they're deep, deep under the planet. And then you come out and it's water and green, and it's like, how does this happen? But they keep finding those, there's been a couple of massive ones. I know there was one in Vietnam found a little while ago that was unbelievable. It was just some guy looking at the hill on the other side of the valley, and it was just a small hole, like a 4 foot, 5 foot hole, goes in there, and you could you could put 1 million people in there, and it was completely self-sustaining. Like, we have no idea, Jock. And look, we talked about being open-minded before. I know that if you had came to 21-year-old me and said, hey, there's beings living under the earth, and they're flying tic-tac-shaped craft and they're diving into the ocean, I probably would have entertained you, but I really would have thought you were crazy.
Right.
The problem with it's not the problem, but the thing about that line of evidence now, Jock, is that it is growing. It's not unsubstantial. It's just that we have the narrative that we have existed under, basically post World War II and probably prior to that as well, probably the last couple of 100 years, has been so well controlled and so well dialed that our belief systems have been shaped to not think about this stuff. However, the reality is that these UAPs that are basically faster and better than anything we've got, they are entering into the ocean. They are entering into, there's the clip I talked about last podcast was there's this guy flying his drone in a canyon somewhere. I think it might have been in the US somewhere. And this little tic-tac shaped craft comes comes across the screen and just flies straight into a cliff. Disappears, right? And he's on the videos like, listen, this is not staged. I was just flying my drone. You know what I mean? Like, there was nothing. This is just, I just put this up. This is what happened,
Yeah,
this is happening more with these lines of evidence happening more and more, living on the surface is not a good idea. We've talked on the podcast before about the tunnel complexes. Theoretically, there's a tunnel complex that goes from the Mediterranean all the way to Europe, right? You talk about North American Indian stuff. There was a line of stuff that the people from the underground knew the cataclysm was coming. They came and got the people that were above ground, looked after them until the cataclysm was finished, and then they sent them back up and they gave them a bit of a hand and sent them on their way. Like, why do we always have to – these stories are always labelled as myth. What if it's not myth? What if they're just telling the story? Like, this is – what if these weird cave paintings of giants and people riding dinosaurs and all this sort of stuff, this isn't someone just messing around. Mm-hmm. They're actually telling us. There's the reason they carved it into stone is to tell us something. That's what I would like to believe.
Well, these oral legends that the Native Americans have were essentially carving into the stone of the mind. These legends are carved beautifully and precisely by the elders to remember the history, because they weren't writing things down. So they told the story that they knew, and they're not going to make up a story. They're going to tell the story that's real, because that's what you want. You want your tribe to survive and do well, and the only way you're going to do that is if you have stories about things that are real. So the Hopi Indians were taken care of by what they call the ant people. They were taken down to this crack, the really deep crack near or next to the Grand Canyon, and where the ant people lived. And they took them down there before the cataclysm, because they knew the cataclysm was coming somehow. And like you said, they took care of them. And then that's their legend. It's a super important story to them. It's probably the most important story to the Hopi Indians, because, I mean, how awesome is it that you would meet another race of beings that's going to give you advance warning about something that actually happens? How would they even know? And then they're going to take care of you. They're a completely different race, and they're going to take care of you until the cataclysm is over, and then they're going to send you back. They're completely benevolent. So of course they're going to etch that into the stone of their minds forever.
Absolutely. Of course they are. Like, yeah, I think, as I say, the hubris of the modern man is almost unbelievable. To pretend that these, that's a sort of that. I mean, if you think about that, that's such a fantastic story. Why would you make it up? That's such an awesome, that's such an awesome story. You know, why would you do that? You know, and it's interesting. Well, mate, listen, I want to see some giant stuff because this is not a rabbit hole that I've delved into. So you've got a fresh mind. So show me some of your giant stuff. I have seen bits and pieces, but I do want to see some of that because I think the problem is with us, Jock, is that we keep opening up multiple rabbit holes. So let's see some giant stuff, and we'll go from there.
All right, I got to prepare y'all, you and all of your listeners and your viewers with two folders of photos. The first folder is going to be just a few terraforming things, and then the second folder is going to be expanding Earth stuff that gives us a basis for the giants to have existed, so that we don't just throw giants at people. I'm going to share screen. I have a dread of sharing screen from prior experience because I'm so terrible at sharing it and then going off and searching on my computer for weird stuff, and it just takes forever. So I'm going to share screen. Okay, It's all right. I've got my photos up. Everything's planned.
Okay,
it's all right here.
It's all there.
Now I'm going to share screen. I just got to find the little button.
You've been practicing. You've been practicing.
Let's see. Host disabled, participant screen sharing.
Oh, hang on. That's me, mate. That's me. Sorry, bud.
That's okay. Okay.
That's me. Hang on. See, look at that.
Don't worry. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine.
We're going to be fine.
I'll take a drink.
Yeah, take a drink. Listen, it's only the people on the video that get this, mate. I'll on the audio version. I'll get rid of this. Where are we? Why can't I? Multiple participants can share simultaneously. There we go. 0 mistakes, Jock. 0 mistakes.
Alrighty.
Boom. There we go. Now, okay. So we got Reflection Canyon, Utah.
Right. So let's go back to the first one. Okay. Now I just want to let people know that there's this new theory that I came up with from being in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex for 23 months and seeing that the building of the ancients, which is very clear in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex, alternating hard baked clay stone with earthquake mitigating softer clay layers, and it's just up, making a pyramid out of that, making a hill out of that, making a tumulus out of that. All that building never ends. So I've been miles and miles and miles outside the complex, exploring on my own, trying to find where that specific kind of building ends. It doesn't end. And then I went to Serbia and I found similar kind of building. Then I went to Croatia, similar kind of building, and all in the Balkans there. Then I went to South Africa with Michael Tellinger for a month, and because they wanted me to shoot some videos with him. He's really good friends with Dr. Sam Wozmanigic, who discovered the Bosnian Pyramids. So Michael Tellinger, who, by the way, wrote Slave Species of God, right?
Yeah.
Which is talking about the genetic engineering of the human race.
Yes.
So I was like, yeah, I'm excited to go down and shoot some videos with you. So I hope your audience will check out a playlist on my personal channel on YouTube, Jock Doubleday channel, and the playlist is called Michael Tellinger.
Yeah.
And the first video is called Adam's Calendar. You got to see that video. It's so amazing what they found out down there. So anyway, I want to just be clear that the terraforming that I have found, what I call terraforming, which is the building of hills and valleys, riverbeds, and basically the continents, goes across the world. I've only explored 3 continents myself: Africa, North America, Eurasia, but it goes everywhere. And I'm just going to show you some examples. This is supposed to be sedimentary material, but here's this vertical seam in the middle here.
Yeah, I can see that.
And there's another section seam here. And you go, well, it is super strong. It's integral. It's not a crack. It's not breaking apart. So geology would call this a crack, a fracture, but they're not breaking anything apart. Now, I just want to go to the next slide and to show you the similarity of these two things. So we have this vertical cut on the outer edge of this water course. And here's another vertical cut on the outer edge as the water's going around. And then on the inside, it's kind of nice and low and flat. And here it is nice and low and flat over here. So there's a similarity. The scale is much, much, much different.
Yeah.
Got a huge river, Colorado River on the right, but this is exactly the same building. Now I call this a building and people say, well, that's just crazy, but let's just keep looking at what we see.
And look, I will say, Jock, that I think one of the key pieces of evidence that really gets me with your stuff is these cracks, these identified layers that you've seen that are there to the naked eye. Like, it's not exactly like you can deny that they're there. They're there. You know, like, I think that's, and again, explained away very simply by the school, you know, the doctrine, the narrative. However,
right.
How can you not question that? You know what I mean?
Well, once we go out into the field, what I find in real time on video and what I'm showing people who happen to come upon my videos is that once we actually look at the material really close up, we start to see things that go against the dogma. And the dogma is everything that's vertical is going to be a crack or a fracture, and that every line, and then everything else is either sedimentary layers or it's molten or some version of molten material, in which case you would never have sections that were regular sections in molten material. And if it was sedimentary, you're not going to have regular sections in sedimentary material. You'll have regular layers that are horizontal, but you're not going to have regular vertical lines unless there was some kind of jagged crack, but that's not what we're finding. So what we're finding in the field contradicts the geological precepts. Now here we have this thing called Half Dome in Yosemite Valley, California. And this is, and if you look at this little article title on the right, on the very bottom, you find that it says formation of igneous layering. In other words, they're trying to explain why there's layers in igneous rock. This is supposed to be igneous rock. This whole massive peak called Half Dome is supposed to be completely igneous.
So one piece.
That's molten. Yeah. Well, you would expect it to be essentially joined in some way or other. And if it's not joined, it would be, maybe there'd be some cracks that would be sort of random cracks through it. But this is layered in a really specific way, and they're not adhered. At least if they are adhered, it's only slightly, and they break out in horizontal layers. You can see these pieces breaking out. Yeah. So these layers are trying to be explained in this article. How does igneous rock form layers? Well, it's like, to me, it's like a clown show. And I don't mean to disparage academia, but I must. It's a clown show because you can't explain igneous rock layering itself, period. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to so then you go, well, I wonder, maybe there's some other explanation for igneous rock having layers. Maybe it's not igneous rock. So we have Australia, land of the original people on the right, and we have Monument Valley, Utah on the left. This is iron-rich rock, and it's the same type of material and the same type of layering, and it's very odd because it's vertical. If it were sedimentary, then somehow it's
you'd think it'd be horizontal.
It's vertical. You think it'd be horizontal, or somehow, but if there's upheaval, then it's a little bit off.
You think it can be angled or horizontal. Yeah.
So we have this interesting sort of comparison, and then echoing this, we have Mount Kailash, and you can see the layers that are perfectly horizontal in Mount Kailash, and then a strong straight section seam. And you go, okay, if the plate tectonics theory is correct, then mountains are formed by plates crashing into each other. One subducts and the mountains come up.
Yeah.
If it was really the case that plate tectonics were true, you'd have this incredible jumble of material as the continental plates smashed into each other, and one was kind of going down and one was coming up. It wouldn't be that you would find every dang mountain horizontal layered. You just wouldn't find that. But
That's
most
true.
mountains are either horizontally layered or slightly off like this. And usually what they are is they're inclined into the face. So as I face the mountain, I'll see an inclination.
Yeah.
And as I face this side, I'll see an inclination. And as I face this side. So it's like somehow nature is, geology is telling us that somehow nature is inclining all of its layers, no matter which way you face the mountain. Or it's horizontal like this in Kailash.
So, mate, yeah, it is odd. So can I ask a question? I love all this evidence, right? But so are you suggesting? I mean, that was not a small mountain you just showed me. Then you're talking about all the red. That's one of the biggest rocks on the planet, right? This is massive stuff, mate. So are you saying this was built? Is that what you're saying? Do you think it was built or it was made?
I mean, I'll just give you the punchline and say yes, but the thing is that we have to look at the geological theory and go, does it make sense? And when we find out that it doesn't make sense for all these features on the planet, we have to come up with a new explanation. We have to come up with an explanatory model. And I'm coming up with one that's a possibility and advancing that theory. And so, for instance, we're looking at this this climber. She's climbing up what she calls a crack, but then we see the same crack here going the same way. Then we see the same crack here going the same way, and we see the same crack, and then we go, are those cracks or are those actually integral, strong, joining seams, like seams in a garment? Because it doesn't look like it's breaking apart at all. It looks like it's really strong. And there's a straight line going through this weird horizontal material that's kind of chaotic in its horizontalness. But suddenly there's a straight line and a straight line and a straight line, and it's sectioned. And
they're almost even too, aren't they, mate? This is interesting, guys. Like, they're almost evenly spaced as well. Yeah.
So I'm just sort of giving you some stuff. That's Baalbek. We saw that. Jacob's Well. Here in Texas, there's a straight line seam that goes through this material. This is supposed to be a natural well. It's not a well and it's not a cave, but they call it Jacob's Well because they don't want you to think of it as a tunnel. But divers have gone into this and they start going horizontal and they cannot find the end of this well. It's really? A tunnel that goes on and on and on and on. Yes, and the water's coming up out of this tunnel. So the well entrance is where I'm saying the ancients said we're going to have the water come out here. It's like a yoni-shaped entrance with a perfect vertical line that bisects the shape of the entrance, and then the divers run their lines and they still can't get to the end of this tunnel.
So how deep have they been in? Do you know how far down they've gone? Or?
It's kind of goes horizontal, so it's not so deep. It's that it keeps going this way.
It just keeps going that way, yeah.
I think it was 1,200 meters was as far as they've gone so far. These are a number that I remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to run it. You got to deal with air and pressure, and there's only so long you can stay under.
They're taking all these tanks and they have to go through these narrow spaces, so they can't take enough tanks, you know what I'm saying, to get through the narrow spaces. So it's anyway, so that's another interesting, I'm just giving people photos to give a sense. I'm painting a little picture. Yeah. Here's me with a hilarious face going, and the text, which you can't see because of
that face you make when you realise they built it all. So, I mean,
you can see that. Okay.
I can see that. Yeah, it's interesting. So, do you know where my mind went? And I find this fascinating. Right, my mind went to like a giant 3D printer. Okay.
Yeah.
Something like that, And it's interesting how we apply these things to the technology of our time. Like they used to think the brain was like a hydraulic engine because hydraulics was the best technology that they had at that time. They hadn't actually, you know. But yeah, it's fascinating, like how. Yeah, the concrete stuff, the molded stuff. I know we were going to talk about that maybe a bit later as well. But there's all that fascinating stuff. Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of a portal. You know, it's almost like they built it as a portal, and you kind of wonder what time of the year if it is a portal, you would want to be there for something cool to happen.
Yes, very much so.
Where my mind goes, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
But 3D printing, you know, I'm gonna at the very last slide I have out of all these folders is a picture of my book cover that I'm writing. It's called Who Built the Earth? So the terraforming theory is one part of the knowledge or the idea, and then the other part of the idea is who built the earth. So there's a different stage. There's an ancient, because you talked about timelines earlier. To me, it's a truly ancient planet that was built in ancient times, and that's what my book Who Built the Earth is about. And so the alternate title for Who Built the Earth was Who Printed the Earth.
There you go.
But see, because I don't know for sure that it was printed, that's just a possibility. So I thought, you know, it's stronger for me right now to say Who Built the Earth because it's a safer title. I'm already out on the limb so far with this theory. I want to stay a little bit safe and say Who Built the Earth and have printing as a possibility within the book. But yeah, 3D printing, everything's pointing to 3D printing for the Earth and for the continents, because no one's taking wheelbarrows and shovels and building continents. That would take millions and millions of years.
That was the when I've, like, since we last spoke, and because we were going to talk again, I've sort of put some dedicated time into thinking about your theory and where my mind goes with it. And it's like, I follow you on your evidence, but the just how big, like how the things you did, like it's just, it blows my mind, you know.
It's mind-blowing, yeah.
I see there's a massive vertical crack there. Looks almost like two different types of stone almost in that one too. I thought I was going to say, I didn't read it. I was like, oh, is that Petra? It definitely is Petra. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is another example of something that sort of makes us question the geological theory, because if this is sedimentary sandstone, and that's what they tell us it is, then why does it look different? You clued in on it right away. The section on the left looks different from the section on the right. And so you're like, why does it look different? And why is there a perfectly straight crack that goes all the way from the bottom of the photo through the very top and it keeps going? Well, I mean, that's just a question I have. I haven't been to Petra. These aren't my photos, but I'm looking at the photos going, hey, what's going on? So then we have more Petra Jordan stuff. We have these really
massive vertical cracks,
sectioning lines, and kind of regular larger sections, you know.
Yeah, and that's it. It's interesting. It's almost sectioned off, isn't it? If you look at it, it's like, you know, I mean, what do you know why that is?
That's Petra.
Yeah.
And then we have also a Petra. We have, what people are looking at is, oh, look, they carved a door into this thing. Isn't that cool? And let's go inside. And I'm looking at this line right here.
Yeah,
and flick over, mate. The same angle of line.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, it goes the whole way through what is supposed to be sedimentary material. This is supposed to be sedimentary sandstone. How are you going to have a straight line and then this other angle, the same angle of the straight line going here?
That's interesting. Like, I mean, you start looking at this stuff. As I say, I haven't quite made a folder. Time got away from me. I was going to make a folder of some of the stuff I've seen here in Australia. I will get that to you to help you with some of your evidence, because I have seen some of that stuff here. You know, when you're climbing through the bush and you're looking for, you know, I'm on the search for standing stones and bits and pieces myself. However, I've travelled all over this big brown land, Jock, and I have seen that in multiple times.
Right. So then again, we're just looking at we're coming at it with the eyes of a geologist and going, what in the heck is this straight line doing in our sedimentary material? You know?
So what makes, obviously, look, you've shown us multiple lines of evidence there. And obviously, I know you're a thorough researcher. So what would a geologist say? Like if Jock was a geologist, what is the standard line? How would they explain that? How do they explain their sedimentary cracks and these different types of stone, these separate layers, this stuff that you're showing us today?
They call this, their specific terminology for this line is a joint fracture. So they're trying to bring in the idea of a joint, in other words, a joining, with the idea of a fracture by calling it a joint fracture, or for short, they just call it a fracture or a crack. But basically what they're saying is it's a fracture, probably from temperature or from earthquakes or temperature differentials, cold, hot, over the time things fracture, things break apart. Well, I'm sorry, but this ain't breaking apart.
No, a lot of these cracks are showing us aren't breaking apart. And a lot of these cracks, mate, they're very, very straight. You wouldn't think, again, like some of the research that I was doing, it's like, some of this sandstone breaks in straight lines. But see, after talking to you and after seeing, multiple lines of your evidence, I've watched a few more of your videos as well since we last spoke. It's like, well, hang on a minute. Not everything breaks in vertical lines, but it seems like it does. Like, hang on a minute. That's an anomaly. This is something that is worth thinking about. And I can actually truly see why you're down this rabbit hole. I can see how I can see why, definitely.
And if we go to the Yonaguni Monument in Japan, which is underwater, it's about 80 meters underwater, then we find that the vertical sandstone, the horizontal sandstone layers are breaking out, but they're also breaking out perfectly vertically. Yes. And you're like, wait a minute, Geology 101 says nothing about perfect vertical.
Yeah, there's no right angles in nature. Yeah, there's no right angles in nature. That's the rule, yeah.
Because if geology was correct, and it was laid down as a sedimentary layer, and then a different sort of material over time. Right. Then it would break out horizontally, and that's less legitimate. But it's not gonna. There's no way you're gonna have a vertical seam that goes through many different geological layers. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So let's go so here it is. This is the sort of the end result of this, which is just some words and a picture, just me saying stuff, but hopefully because people have seen what I've been looking at, they'll get an idea of why I've gone out on this limb,
Yeah, look, that's a beautiful sentence you've got there too, mate. The end of institutional geology and the beginning of a new era of understanding. Look, everything, geology, see, the thing is, through my lines of research, I have a few different focuses, but I have to gain understanding of all these different disciplines, yeah? And geology is one of those things where they literally moved away from catastrophism because of the Bible. They didn't want to be seen aligning with the flood myth in the Bible. So that is why geology is a gradual geology. That is as simple as it gets. It's ridiculous, but that is actually what happened. The reason we have gradualistic geology is at the start they didn't want to align themselves with the religion, so they decided to ignore catastrophism, right? So a lot of this, what we have found, and I'm sure you're finding as well, that all of these institutions and a lot of these disciplines are built on beds of sand, Jock. They're not. The evidence that their major ideas that they have, it's very thin. The evidence is very thin and can be easily looked at and gone, hang on a minute, what are you talking about?
Well, right. And the reason that institutional geology has come up with the natural theory for the formation of the continents and the Earth is that their premise is that we are the first advanced race to exist in the solar system, in the galaxy, in the universe. Therefore, no one could have been here to build continents. No one could have been here to build an earth. And why would they anyway? So of course it has to be natural. That's the premise. But we know that there are other advanced races out there. It doesn't mean that they definitely built continents. It doesn't mean that they definitely built planets, but we're not the first. We're the last, period.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are the current iteration. And I would seriously play with the term advanced, Jock. I think if, we got stuck in our greed sometime in the mid 20th century, and we stopped advancing. One of the things I love to tell my students and love to tell people when we're talking about this is that if you wanted to, you could order a Chevy Bel Air in 1957 with cruise control, with air conditioning, with electric seats, with a primitive form of navigation, with an 8-track disc player, air suspension, a primitive injection. Like, you could get all that in 1957. Nothing has really changed because they've been making money out of it. Any true advancements in technology, whether it be electric or solar or hydrogen or any of this stuff, has been squashed and put aside because of the greed of the post-World War II world that we have grown up in. So I would question advance, because if we were truly advanced, we'd embrace hydrogen technology. We would embrace solar technology. We would embrace cleaner forms of electric technology. So I would even question advance, man.
Right. Well, I think that our minds are good enough to be an advanced race, but we keep getting held back by certain families who have vested interests, the Morgans, to name some. And the Morgans are the ones that squashed Wardenclyffe Tower, the Tesla's beautiful tower, that could have given us free energy, essentially free energy. Once you build the towers, which cost money, then you've got basically free energy. And they squashed that because they said we can't control it, we can't charge for it.
Yes, that's right.
So, and the endless patents that get shelved, like you're saying, by the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the big bankers, they just keep shelving patents because they want them, and they'll even suicide people who create water-driven cars, So, we can run our car on water? That's free. Water's free. But no, they want you to pay for petroleum-based gasoline.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they shelve the patents.
Well, one of the first guys to come up with that and actually have it run successfully with a modern amount of power was an Aussie guy. He was an Aussie guy out of South Australia in the 60s. And GM, Ford, and Chrysler knocked on his door and said, here's a suitcase, take this away with you and shut the fuck up. Right? And I'm pretty sure, and it's amazing how many of these guys can't drive cars, John. It's amazing how they find one tree in the middle of nowhere. They run into these trees all the time. Right. Or they accidentally shoot themselves in the head twice.
Right. Yeah, or they shoot themselves in the back of the head or something,
Yeah, that's right, with a shotgun.
So let's go. If you want, let's go to this.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's keep moving.
If I can
tell me about expanding Earth, because I have heard a bit about this. As I say, you're giving me fresh information. I love that, and it's not necessarily something we've spoken about on the podcast before either, which is cool.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's so many subjects, and the expanding Earth is something that came on a few years ago. About the
I've
same
heard
time
some
I started
stuff about it.
Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
And there's an amazing guy. I'll show you his book later on in this slideshow. I only got about 10 slides, so don't worry, it's not going to kill you. When I say kill you, I mean it's not going to kill your audience. Hopefully,
no, they're good. They're good. They're awesome.
Okay. I don't want to, pummel anyone with too much stuff. And I'm always so excited about stuff. I will literally go on to a waitress in a cafe for 20 minutes while she's standing there waiting for me to take my order. I'll be like, the Bosnian pyramids, and just go off, and she's like, wait, literally, when is he going to order?
Yeah, does he want a coffee or what? What's he doing?
I know. Yes, and I always think they're interested, and I'm like, I'll give you these links if you want. They're like, definitely, I'll come and say hi to you. They never do. I mean, never. Like 100% rate of not really caring that much. But anyway,
well, the thing is, there's so much, mate. There's so much, Jock, I think, and I think a lot of people are interested. However, once we can move out of this survival / fear mindset that we started this podcast talking about, once we can actually move out of that collectively, I do think that the genuine interest, because it's not that people aren't genuinely interested, it's just that they're in such a state of survival that it's hard for them to even look at it and move past. You know?
Agreed. So basically, what we have is a theory of the Earth that says that it was about the size of Mars in the distant past, which is a third. So it's a third of the size it is now, and really, really small. So Mars's gravity is really not that much. It's really, really a light gravity, and so that's what Earth had in the distant past, to allow the larger dinosaurs and giant humans to live on this planet, to walk around. And so the way it's been expanding, the theory goes, is through the seabed. So the continents remained essentially the same. And in the distant past, the ball of the Earth didn't have oceans in it. It wasn't the Pangaea thing quite. It wasn't quite Pangaea, because the Pangaea is some continents on a big ball of water, and the continents are together on this big ball of water.
And they broke apart and floated. Yeah.
And they floated around, floated through the seas. But this is different. It's a smaller Earth that has no oceans yet. All right. And so then little by little, from the seabed midlines that you see this snaking line, from the middle of the seabeds, which weren't seabeds back then, they were just seams between the continents. Then the Earth expands slowly from the volcanic action of the seam throughout the Earth, and there's many
which we can see. We can see evidence of that throughout Australasia, along the Ring of Fire, in Hawaii as well. You know, there's that island that's constantly being built every single day, that is creating its own landmass. Yeah.
So we can kind of see this line that goes. It looks a lot like the continents, the left side of the continent of Africa. In other words, you could see
it does
how
too.
Africa
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
North
Yeah.
America.
How accurate is this? What you're showing me? Obviously, Jock, you're showing me something. You're showing me the Earth without ocean. What's the level of accuracy?
Right.
Is that actually true? Because I mean, obviously, I thought to this day, we still don't really know much about our oceans, but we've been able to map the Earth and take them apart. Is this very accurate? Do you know?
Well, I think the problem with our ocean science is that we don't know about the organisms, but we do have really good readings of the bottom of the. We have these readings. They're super, super detailed, and they show the spreading of the seabeds.
Yeah.
So it's called seafloor spreading, and so let me just show you some more.
Yeah, wow, look at that.
We got a bigger picture. There we go. So you can see how it's stretching. So it's seafloor spreading.
That's interesting.
And so we have this really detailed, probably sonic readings from the bottom of the seas. And we have something even more interesting. Oh, this is the title of the book written by this guy, James Maxlow.
Beyond Plate Tectonics.
Yeah, Beyond Plate Tectonics. And so this is in his book, or one of his, he's written, I think, 5 books on the Earth. And this shows, interestingly, what this shows is different dates for the seabed material. And the youngest dates are in the middle. So in this little middle area.
And that along the seams there. Yeah, right. Further out towards the end. Yeah.
Exactly. So that really, really, what's the word? Helps the expanding Earth theory to have the dating of the seabed be older the further out it gets.
So look, guys, just for those that are listening at home without the video, I want to try and capture this, because this is actually really opening my mind to a different perspective. So basically, from what it looks like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jock, is that some of these main seams, which would be the fault lines around the planet, you would expect some of the major fault lines, it seems that there is Earth being created from underneath that is actually pushing the Earth out and actually creating and widening the planet as this actually happens. And we're looking at many different pictures and lines of evidence to show that. And that is very, very fascinating. And that is not something that I'd seen before. Is there a time frame? Like, how old's the green stuff there that we're looking at now?
That's a good question. I think I don't know the specific age of this.
Would be interesting. How could we actually date it too, I suppose, is another question.
Well, that's a rabbit hole too, because that gets into whether or not the Big Bang actually exists, or is really real or not. And I would argue, and I think that real science argues, that there was no Big Bang, that the universe has always been here, and the universe will likely always be here. And so that gives us not only time for civilizations to advance and become way more advanced than we are, throughout the infinite time before, but it also means that our Earth could be much older than the universities tell us. But then again, the timelines might be off in a different way, which is that it might be much younger than they tell us. But the fact that there was no Big Bang, according to science, opens up a whole lot of possibilities for the dating of races that exist today and existed before us, and also dating of planets and dating of suns. And so,
well, this is, just to put it into a little bit of perspective, is that we only just got a good, we only took a photo of Pluto in the 70s. The first time we actually even saw it, and it was not a good photo, it was a blurry photo. However, just to put that into your mind, it was only 50 years ago that we actually took photos of our outer planets, that we'd never actually truly seen them before. So to pretend that we could actually accurately date them, given the fact that we only just saw them, again, the hubris is quite unbelievable. So we've got a heap of, so James Maxo, okay, so he's got a number of books on the origin of continents and oceans, a paradigm shift in understanding. That's interesting. Terra non firma, Earth, plate tectonics is a myth. On the origin of continents and oceans, Book 2, the Earth's rock record. On the origin of continents and oceans, Book 1, empirical small Earth modelling studies. So just to follow that line of what you just showed us there, right? Okay, so I'm going to join two things together here. So if we're to pretend, let's say for a fact, we're going to go full believer that there is an advanced race of whoever living underneath the Earth, right? So are they expanding our Earth because they need more space underneath there? Are they actually controlling the push out and making it larger, making the roof better? Is that, have I gone too crazy there, or is that?
That certainly makes sense, and I never quite thought of that before. And I would say that that's completely logical. I also think that if the planet was built, so if we're starting from this big picture of people could have built planets and maybe they built the Earth. If they did build the Earth, they're probably going to build an engine into it that will make it bigger over time, because they're building a home. They're building a home, and the time it would take them to build a planet that's 3 times larger is 3 times as much time. So in other words, if they can build a small planet that expands on its own, that's cool.
Yeah. There's some out there stuff. That's something to think about. But that is, I had never ever seen that before, and that completely shifts my perception and understanding of our planet, because what you're showing me here is it makes sense. So James Maxlow, I might have to try and get in touch with him. I want to hear what he's got to say. Like that is fascinating. That is fascinating stuff.
Yeah, he's got at least 5 books. I was trying to find out how many books he had before this talk, but I couldn't find out, because the internet sometimes is not user friendly for me. Sometimes it is. I don't know. But anyway.
I don't think that may not be the technology, Jock. That may be the user.
I know. It's and I keep going back and forth between search engines, going, why can't I find a search engine that's going to help me? But it's probably my search terms, So anyway, let's see if I can I turn off Instagram? I don't know. Anyway, so this is just a picture. Now we're going to go where you wanted to go. This is the juice right here. This is giants, right? Giants,
running giants. Look, hey, it's not about where I wanted to go. You've taken me in a couple of different directions already, mate. Don't ever worry about that.
Well, you did mention this, and I was like, I definitely want to go there. I just got to lay some foundation for these giants.
Good, man. I like it. I think it's good. I think, because the thing is, we can't just, like, I agree with you. We can't just go, there was giants. We need to premise it. And I think before we get to giants, there's a thought process that's been ruminating in the back of my head the whole time. It's like, if you think about the super tall people that are on the earth now, you got the 7.5 footer, 8 footer people, they have great trouble just moving around on the planet. That is true too, and because they are, one of the things they talk about is actually just trying to move around because of the gravity affecting them. That'd be why the average height of humans is within a foot, because that we can't get much taller than that or bigger than that, or else it is actually a great issue with us moving around. And some of the megafauna, I used to tell, you'll enjoy this, Jock. I used to tell my wife that there was a giant wombat here in Australia, and she thought I was joking, because I used to say, 100,000 years ago, we could be camping and a big giant wombat's going to come and just totally wreck our day. And she thought I was joking. But then we went to the local museum here in Brisbane, and they've got a skeleton that they found of a giant wombat. And I said, see? And she goes, I thought you were joking. I said, no, there's, wombats the size of a small van. Like that's how big, some of these megafauna was.
So then we got to ask ourselves, why is it that all of the organisms, plants, insects, animals are getting smaller over time? Because that's what the fossil record shows us. That's what the bones are telling us. So then you go, well, and humans are animals, so humans are doing the same thing. Now this is just a picture of, so people go, well, that's not evidence of giants. Somebody painted a picture. Are you really calling that evidence? No, I'm not calling this evidence.
Somebody it's just a cool picture.
It's a cool picture to introduce what's happening. And, I did try to find the author of this picture, and I worked really hard about 8 years ago trying to find out who painted this. I can't find out who painted it. So I otherwise I'd give him credit. So this is South Africa. This is a giant footprint in what is supposed to be granite, and Michael Tellinger has gotten so much flack for promoting this because this is near where he lives, and so he's the main guy that promotes this footprint. And so the geologists are saying, you cannot have a footprint in granite. And he's like, yeah, I know. So how did it get there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so
because it's a footprint.
I know we can't have that. So someone tell me what happened. Like this is
and he didn't know how to explain it, except that then he got an email from an Alaskan gold miner, and the Alaskan gold miner told him that when they go through and mine for gold, they've got this sluice that's at the end of the day, and it's just the stuff that doesn't have the gold in it anymore. So it's just waste material, and it's loose, and and so you could step into this stuff and leave a footprint. In fact, animals do that all the time.
All the time,
Then it hardens.
Yep.
then it hardens into stone. It hardens back into the stone it was before they took the gold out of it.
Yep.
So this Alaskan gold miner gave Michael Tellinger the clue about how this could have happened. And by the way, there's tons of gold mines down in South Africa. I mean, it's unbelievable how much gold is down there, and how much historical gold mining has gone on. So this is the perfect place for something like this to have happened, you know? All right, so let's go to this book. I mean, why does a book like this exist? It would be my question. Yeah. I'll just leave it there.
So where is then that book? No, hang on, go, don't do go, Bob. Where's that giant? Where is the giant book?
I don't know, and I looked for on the post to find out the specific information, and it didn't have the origin of this book. It's probably from Italy or someplace. I mean, look, there's Italy in the map right there.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it might be something that is either associated with the Vatican secret library or is in Italy somewhere. I just have a feeling. I don't know. This guy looks Italian. Yeah. So anyway, here's this is West Java, Indonesia. I talked to a guy who said, not only can I show you where this is, he's in Indonesia, but I can show you caves with bones of giants that are that big.
Really? Indonesia's only is not far away from me. That's interesting.
So that's West Java, Indonesia. And people say, well, that's not necessarily a footprint. And I'm like, well, what I see is a footprint. Different people might see different things. Let's go to the next thing. Oh, here's the conversation with this fellow. If anyone wants to talk to him, that's his Facebook name.
Yeah, right.
His Facebook name is Pozen Pain. Pozen Pain.
Yeah.
So you can find him on Facebook. You can talk to him, and he says, if you like to see not only footprint but body, go to Yaman. YAMAN, yeah, in a cave, one of many caves in a village named Al Aqwa in Dhamma province. Giant bodies, not only a giant footprint, and the condition of the giant bodies are better than the condition of the dead body of pharaohs. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, now check this out. What do you see?
That's like fingers. Looks like fingers almost, or toes or something.
Yep. Fingers or toes.
Wow.
And then you've got a guy, a human, about maybe 5 or 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
It looks like it could be a grain of rice in comparison to how big this giant is, you know?
Yeah. Well, even if we step away from, like, you know, physical giants, some of the statues that you hear from the ancient world, you know, like the statue of Heracles that apparently went across the Straits of Gibraltar, like 1 foot on either side, and I think they found the foot. And if they actually you extrapolate the foot, then the statue itself was a few hundred meters tall. Like, I mean, how do you even? We have no concept of that. Obviously, we have a concept of a tall building that's built, you know, 1 layer at a time over a period of time. But a statue in granite that is 400 meters tall, you know, apart from the Statue of Liberty, like, I mean, that's the only thing. But big, like 2 or 3 times the size of the Statue of Liberty is what we're talking about, Jock. You know, like some of this stuff, it's mind-bending.
And then you have to ask yourself: is the statue actually a statue, or is it a being that turned to stone? You know.
Yeah, well, in an infinite universe, mate, all things are possible, aren't they? That's the reality.
Yeah. So here's Chelsea Lee, Chelsea CHELSIE Lee LEIGH on Facebook. She's saying, so I'm watching Building Off the Grid on Do It Yourself Network, and as this family takes an aerial photo of their beautiful new home, I noticed something. So this is the toes or the fingers, it's probably toes of a giant that's so big that if he picked you up, you would be a grain of rice in his palm. I mean, it's astonishing. Then you got these. That's Canada.
Holy shit! How big is that?
Footprints that go for. I mean, it looks like the plane's probably 1,000 feet away.
Yeah.
So let's say 300 meters away, and then this thing looks like it might be the size of a football field. This
something like that. Yeah, it's 100, 200 meters long, something like that.
So, and it could be just a lake that looks like a footprint. Okay. Well, I'm just showing you some stuff,
Yeah.
Then on the left, so on the left side of this, it's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to circle it with my cursor. There's 4 upside down, what look like finger marks. Okay. And I'm going to go to the next slide. And I upped the contrast a little bit and came closer in.
Okay.
So here's one, what looks like a finger, here's another, and then a smaller one here. And you're like, what's the ridge? There's a ridge between each of them, as if someone had pressed the fingers in, and then there's a ridge of molten material that comes up, And that's here in Texas. So then you've got Elephant Rock. Now this is quite a large elephant. This is in Iceland. And
I've seen that. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, it's amazing. And there's all these elephants all over the planet that look like they were giant elephants that turned to stone. I mean, much, much, much bigger than our present day elephants. Close up on that. And you kind of get a feeling for the skin and everything.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't there? There's a, not too sure. Yeah. Is that the island? The island that's the one. That's the one that looks like an elephant from front to back. Yeah. It's insane.
And then there's this other one in this next slide. There's another elephant rock on the bottom left of this collage, which is, I think it's in Thailand or someplace. I can't really remember, but I posted it on my Samir Osmanigas Facebook page back when I had that, and I had it for 9 years. And I got 13 million people reached. I got 70,000 shares.
Yeah, wow.
75,000 shares of this elephant rock collage because people are just so freaked out by this. I mean, it blew away anything that I posted about the Bosnian pyramids by like a factor of 1,000. I mean, it was unbelievable,
Yeah.
Here we have a guy standing on what looks to be, well, you tell me what you think that looks like he's standing on.
Yeah, it looks like a frog or an insect of some description. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
How big is this insect, would you say?
Well, I mean, the guy that's standing on there, if you say 5.5 foot tall, the head of that insect is, 3 meters wide or something like that, 4 meters wide. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, it looks like a praying mantis head.
Could be. Yeah. Definitely. There's the snake stones as well. Have you seen? I think that's somewhere in North America where there's the serpent stone. It actually looks like, and it's massive, and it looks like a snake, and you can see the scales and all that sort of stuff as well. And they say it's carved, but what if it's not carved? What if it's
right? What if it's a snake turned to stone?
So how would they turn to stone, though, Jock? How would they turn to stone if we were to posit a theory about that? How would they do that?
Well, probably in a similar way to how bones turn to stone, become petrified, or how trees become petrified. So geology or paleontology, they have this recipe for that happening, and certain minerals seep in because there's water available, and there's a seeping action of the minerals coming in, and then the minerals sort of take over the hollow bone, because bones are largely, I don't know if I can say largely hollow, but there's a lot of hollow spaces in the bones.
Yeah.
So right now we're looking at something called shiprock in New Mexico, and you're like, well, that's a bunch of stones, and that's a bunch of features that are geological. And then you go look at it from Google Earth, and you go, that looks like a dragonfly that's about 6 miles long. And here's the tail.
Yeah.
And here's the head. And you can see the wing on the left. And then there's a line here for the wing on the right. And you would think that this black material might be carbon, you know?
Yeah.
And so this is just a theory, you know, that I came up with from this particular image, because how do you explain the fact that there's this dike? They call it a dike that came up naturally, and it's basically a perfectly vertical feature that goes for miles and miles and miles near shiprock. And then they say then it came up and then everything else was eroded away from it because it's a slightly harder material. And you're like, really? But really, that seems like pretty far-fetched. Then we go to back to Bosnia, and we see the megasphere, and we go, okay, we know that stone spheres were built that were smaller all around the world, but here's this massive sphere. Who is building this massive sphere, and what the heck are they doing that for? So now I just have one more quick, a couple more images. Let me just make that full screen. This is how big this fossil. It's basically it's like a dragonfly, but it's a slightly different species. But it's similar to a dragonfly. It's called a griffin fly, and it's that much bigger in the distant past. It's way, way, way bigger than our dragonflies, and we have nothing like this big in the dragonfly sort of family in modern day. So why were similar insects so large back in the day?
Well, I mean, yeah, to sort of put that into perspective, we're looking at a fossil stone here, you know, with a dragonfly comparison that is probably 10, 11, 12 times the size of a generic dragonfly, you would think. Like if you were to hazard a guess. I mean, and so if you think about a dragonfly, what a decent dragonfly is a couple of inches long with a couple of inch wingspan, you times that by 12, you're talking about a 3-foot dragonfly. You know, like that'd scare the crap out of me. If I saw a 3-foot dragonfly flying around. Wow. So that's another type. Is that the same one, or is that a different fossil we're looking at there?
That's the same griffin fly. It might be it might not be the same individual griffin fly, but it's the same species.
Yeah, wow. So they found multiple examples of this in the fossil record. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, massive. So with the 4 wings, you know, I mean, it's so rare that you would have an animal that was so similar and yet so much bigger in the distant past. It's always bigger in the distant past. So now I'm just gonna go to meticulous is my folder's name, right? Yeah. And you go, why is he naming a folder meticulous? Well, because some people posit that the ancient giants built all the pyramids and did all the building. And if I'm going to throw the terraforming theory into that, they say, well, if we go with terraforming, if the continents were built, then the giants probably built them. Well, I don't think so, because look at the finger marks on this stone. They're really, really small. They've got tool marks of a small spatula. This stone is probably about 2 feet wide. So those marks are basically the mark of a regular sized spatula. And so that's not giants doing anything. This is regular. When I say regular sized people, I mean people about our size doing something with this stone, you know? And that's a Bosnian pyramid complex stone. Now here's the Bosnian pyramid of the moon. There's an inclined layer. They not only inclined it into the structure, it's leaning into the face of the pyramid, but it's also going up too. So it's spiraling up the structure and inclined into the structure. It's so engineered. It's unbelievable. And you've got this texturing on each individual stone. You've got soft earthquake mitigating clay above. And above it is like 3 meters of soft earthquake mitigating clay. Then you've got at the bottom, you've got the hard baked clay stone layer that's a structural layer to hold the soft earthquake mitigating clay in place.
I wonder, Jock, mate, because you were saying this is in Eurasia. I wonder whether
Yeah.
and look, the Chinese are their own entity unto their own. However, I wonder if the Chinese pyramids are built in similar fashion, whether or not it was a building technique across that continent. You know what I mean? Or whether it was a type of building technique, because obviously you see, you know, the step pyramids in South America, the pyramid builders in Northern Africa. They're all, it's a different style. But if you're saying this, you've seen evidence of this echoing across Eurasia, I just wonder, you know.
Well, this is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon, so you know it's in the Balkans, and so the only pictures I've seen of Chinese pyramids are from the satellites or from the occasional airplane that snuck under their, you know, incredible secrecy. So I haven't seen anything of the structuring. But clearly in this photo, what we see is texturing of the tops of these blocks that would be done by somebody about our size. In other words, giants are not texturing these blocks in this really meticulous way. Is really the point of that. And you can see the texturing. That's the same exact terrace that I'm showing you from a different angle now. And you can see the deep
cool. There you go. That's cool. Yeah, righto.
So that. So remember what you said in the first podcast, which was the texturing might be to keep the next layer from sliding so much. So it would have a friction in an earthquake.
Yeah.
To have that deep gouging, you know. So that's the same terrace. You can see the beauty of this, and none of this was exposed. It was the volunteers came. They unearthed this terrace, and now we get to see their building, their structural building.
It's almost uniform. What we're looking at, guys, is it's hard to describe it. It's almost like a terrace with a bunch of swirls on it. But if you look at it from when Jock showed the other angle of the photo, they're raised. It's like they've been. It's almost like was there water running over that? I wonder whether there was water running over that. Like, that's interesting. Why would you texture it? Because from the other angle, the ridges are quite high. You know, it's 2 to 3 centimeters in height across each block. But it is almost. It does look deliberate. It does look deliberate.
Well, all of this whole terrace was under the soft clay that you see on the left. And so it was never, there was no water running over it. Each of these stones was baked individually and textured individually. And you're like, who is doing that? Is it people about our size, or is it giants? And well, clearly it's got to be people our size. It can't be, because giants couldn't, this would be like a little tiny, they couldn't handle it. It'd be like us trying to fashion a microchip or something with our fingers. We couldn't do it.
Sure.
So this is Texas, and I wanted to show you this. There's two things about this I want to show you: the meticulous nature of the clay layers in between the hard baked limestone. So they've got soft clay layers in between, and I can put my finger into those layers, and it's totally soft. And the reason it's still there with all the rain for thousands and millions of years is because it's sticky. So it's soft, but it's sticky, and it's literally sticking. Even though the rain is coming, it's really hard for the water to wash that soft clay away. And it's protected by the hard-baked structural layers on top of it. So it is slightly eroded. The soft earthquake mitigating clay is slightly eroded from the rain from each of these. But it's basically staying strong. In a million years, these sections will come down because slowly the clay does come away. But you can see the meticulous nature of it. It's not even an inch in the top soft clay layer. Maybe it's an inch in the second one, and then it's a few inches of soft clay in the third one. But clearly, it was built by people who could meticulously do this with hands about our size.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I'm going to go in real close on this stone in different photos. So here's a stone that's come out. It's a section. It's a concrete section, and the concrete section has 2 levels to it. But as we get closer, we see that those 2 levels, the thinner level on top, has another level in between it and the one below it, and that is again the soft earthquake mitigating clay. It has little bits in it that have stuck to the clay. It's so soft. So that massive section of concrete is composed of two concrete layers, one really thick, one really thin, and then they put the soft earthquake mitigating clay meticulously in this one stone. It's astonishing how much care they put into building hills, is what I want to say. This is me in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex. That was my very first day exploring, and my friend who brought me out there and paid for me to come out for 2 weeks to help videotape him as a scientist exploring these things. So I was the videographer basically for him. Yeah. He took a picture of me. This is the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. You can see the sectioning. I just want to show people that who I am, because I'm talking and you're like, who is this crazy guy? Well, I spent 23 months in Bosnia, and these are some pictures from Bosnia. That's me with my amateur video camera when I was a volunteer taking photos, videos of Semir Osmanagic talking. He's the discoverer of the pyramids. Doing an excavation at a secret site that no one knows about except for me and my friends who I brought there. That's the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. That's the Foinisa River. That's the Bosnian Pyramid Complex in the background. Yeah. Videotaping on the Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon. That's with the volunteers. And that's the shirt that I love. The only shirt that I bought with words on it in 30 years. Bosnian Pyramids digging the true history. Love that shirt. This is a secret site in the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. That's my backpack that's made out of hemp. And that's me in Serbia later on saying, you know what, it's not only all built in Bosnia, but there's tunnels here that in built hills, you can see the vertical lines in these through this, quote, sedimentary material. And inside that tunnel, there's a well that goes straight down for 20 feet. Check out the Iron Well Tunnel on YouTube.
Okay. Wow. Take a breath, mate. Take a breath. You just punched out a whole heap of data there, and I really, really appreciate that. That's a Datsasara backpack. I like their stuff. I've got the big bag, the big Datsasara bag. Okay. That my cat has actually covered in cat hair, but that's a different story. Man, listen, that is something else. Where do I start? Questions. The terraforming of terror. That's an elegant body there as well. Questions. What's it? What when we talk about timeline? How old do you think? If something was if the terraforming of terror did take place, could you, if you were to even potentially say a time, which would be hard, what would be the timeline?
Because we find on video in real-time explorations on different continents, seashells in what is clearly terraformed sections. In other words, we see that this is concrete because of the vertical seams in the sections that are supposed to be sedimentary layers that cannot have vertical seams in them if geology is correct. So we see the concrete sections. Then we suddenly go, wait a minute, this section here has a seashell in it. How is that possible? Doesn't that mean it's geological? Well, we already know it isn't geological. We already know it's terraforming. Therefore, the timeline of the terraforming, if we agree with the terraforming hypothesis, or if we can at least hold it in our minds as a possibility, then this timeline becomes, they had to build the continents after the marine organisms and the freshwater organisms with seashells came into existence. So we're talking about hundreds of millions of years ago, or it could be much younger than that. Sometime after seashells came around, that's when they were building hills, valleys. So in other words, it's a two-stage process. If we agree that it's possible that a planet could be built, if the Earth was built, then they came later with the terraforming. And so the planet builders didn't have to be the same race that built the continents. And in fact, there could be different races that are building continents. But I think your idea about the 3D printing of that you could build a machine that printed features that look geological to us, but because they have a randomizing computer program that randomizes the features, each hill looks different, each feature looks different, each valley looks different, each creek bed looks different, because the computer program told it to grab material from the ether and make it a slightly different hill each time. And so you've got a machine that just works on its own while you're off chilling out among the stars with your friends, and somebody's building a planet with a machine back home, or it's a new home for somebody else, and maybe you're going to live there, and maybe you're going to give it to your friend. It's a house you might give to your friend.
Yeah, right. So I mean, it's hard, isn't it? And I suppose because you're in the depths of a new theory as well, is that it's hard to
help.
Yeah. It's hard to actually to posit by the time. Look, I think the timeline's a way out, mate. Like I think you know, you talk about footprints. There were standard sized human footprints found in Turkey that were 4.5 million years old, right? So it's like you start playing with that. Like, I mean, how do you bring that into your lexicon? You know, like if that's true, or even if it's half that time, doesn't matter if it's half. That's 2.2 million years ago. We've got footprints. You know, like I think again, and it's hard not to, you know, take my conversation hat off and put my tinfoil hat on and sort of say that the narrative has been so well steered that when we start to question it with some of these extreme things, it's hard to wrap your mind around. However, if we go back to the start, we talk with the space photos where I expanded that photo from, you know, a distant star into a million other stars, like we've got no idea at the end of the day. Any theory, and the thing is that the stuff that you're showing me, Jock, it has weight. It does have weight, and I can see, because I'm open, but I'm also honest. So I'd be the first one, and I have thought about your stuff critically. I have thought, how would I come at this, or not disprove it, but what are the questions that I can ask you to give me more information, you know?
Well, that's exactly what I was doing with geology. I was questioning it as I went out into the field and going, because I'm in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex as a playwright. I just happened to be able to become the videographer only because I met Samir and I was making these little videos with my amateur video camera. And he liked the videos because I would pump YouTube with tons of videos of volunteers talking about it and employees and everybody as scientists. And so he hired me as the videographer, which is a cosmic joke because I'm not good with machines at all. A video camera to me is like a foreign entity. Whereas I always thought, why aren't there 1,000 videographers who are professionals vying for this position? Why am I the guy that gets to do this? I would do it for free. He paid me a salary. It was a Bosnian salary. It was basically nothing, but you know, I would have done it for free because it was so amazing to be with him exploring tunnels that had never been walked in, you know, going to pyramids and talking to scientists who were doing analysis in the moment. There was going to be groundbreaking analysis that the major media would then ignore. So we would have to pump our videos really hard because the major media said, well, there aren't any pyramids in Bosnia, screw you. We're not going to promote anything from there. So we had to do it on our own. So anyway, so I'm the playwright with a camera that happens to be a super good camera because I bought a super good camera because I knew that if I didn't, they wouldn't come out good because I didn't know how to run a camera. I just bought the best auto camera I could find that would there was light sensitive enough that it would be in the tunnels and pick up everything and wouldn't do anything except point it. So I would just go up to people and point the camera at them and go, well, how do you feel about the Bosnian pyramids? Or I'd go up to a scientist and go, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this experiment on scalar waves on the pyramid of the sun. Well, okay, then we make a video about that. So to me, it was a cosmic joke that I got to be the guy. I'm thrilled that I got to be the guy, but now I'm in this weird position where I'm a playwright. That's my main thing that I do. I write stories that are fiction. But then the reality of the world is so much more interesting than anything I've written as a fiction writer. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Should I write a story that's fictional today, a sci-fi story that I just made up out of my head? Or should I do something that is probably even more bizarre, which is delve into ancient history, you know? And so, like you said, I'm in the middle of this theory, this terraforming theory, and maybe even a planet building theory. And I'm like, you know, I don't have anyone to talk to. I got nobody. There's a few people who can help me, but like I'm writing my book on who built the earth, and I'm like, there's nobody to talk to tell me who built the earth.
Yeah, that's
nobody.
right. Yeah,
I'm just by myself. So I'm talking to you, and I'm like, you and I should have a beer and put a prawn on the Barbie and talk about maybe who built the earth or maybe who didn't. But you know, like the fact that you're willing to talk to me about terraforming, first of all, or other crazy theories is fantastic, because there's nobody for me to talk to. I mean, really, there's no scientists who are doing work that says who built the earth or when it was built. None, zero. So I'm doing my best, you know.
Well, look, mate, the thing is that with a lot of this work, I mean, you know, hopefully, I hope for you, mate, that your work comes to fruition in the next little while, and this theory gets steam and is proved to be correct. Because it seems to be, you know, in some sort of manner, you are a bit of a renegade with that sort of stuff. You know, there's guys like you, guys like Michael Tellinger, guys like Randall Carlson, guys like Graham Hancock. You know, there's sort of only 10 or 15 guys that are leading, and you'd be part of that group now. Is that you know, and I hope to be part of that group that are trying to lead the charge and expanding these theories that actually make sense. Like, you're right to look at these massive stone walls and go, hang on a minute, that's sectioned pretty evenly. What is going on there? Right? Because I look at it as well and go, hang on, yeah, what is going on there? That's a very good question. And you don't have anyone to ask because they just say it's a big crack. But
right.
These questions need to be asked. And, you know, you seem like a guy, I think we get along, because I play mind experiments with myself. And that's what I've done with your work, if I'm honest. I've looked at it, I've read the videos, I've watched the videos, and then I sit back and I think, well, how can I... And it doesn't matter how I play it in my head, these questions do need to be asked. There's something larger at play here, you know. Right. And it does actually, it does mate in with this weird ultra-terrestrial theory as well. It does mate in with this, you know, why is it now in 2021 that we're real information's coming to the public about these craft that are disappearing into the ocean, and they've been around for a long time. Like, these theories are coming to light, and they're being given more light because, let's face it, Jock, they make more bloody sense than a boat with 2x2 animals, and you know what I mean? Like, all the bullshit that we were fed as far as our history and our story and everything else like that never made sense. Whereas some of these, what would be considered fantastical ideas, do make sense, and they do deserve their time in the sun to be proven or disproven. You know, that's how we play it, you know.
The Bible a couple of times, and I just got to make sure that this gets said, because the scriptures all around the world originally meant slightly different things than we are told they mean. In other words,
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I've seen that where you've got the translation, like even just from the English Bibles, where it's like, it said this in 1800, then it said this, then it said this, then it said this, you know?
Right. So there's like, there's a passage in King James that says, my mighty ones are coming from my call. But the real meaning is giants are coming, not mighty ones, giants. That's the original word, okay? Now, there's another word that's really super important that's been mistranslated, and this Italian scholar, we come back to Italy again, Mauro Biglino, M-A-U-R-O, Biglino, B-I-G-L-I-N-O. He's a Hebrew scholar. He's a Masoretic text scholar. He's really specific. He went to the Hebrew version of the Bible, and he translated it for a Vatican publishing house specifically for the Vatican Publishing House, translated it word for word. In other words, he didn't give it a translation like the King James Bible, which is poetic. He was asked
a literal
to give a word for word
translation.
translation, a literal translation of the Bible. What does this word mean? What does this word mean? What is the specific meaning of all these words? Well, he did that. He got fired because what he found was what he found was completely different from what we're told the Bible says, which is that Elohim, which is supposed to mean God, the great one God, right? Does not mean God. It means many people, aka the gods.
The gods, yeah.
Irrespective of whether it's plural, Elohim means many people, and it's plural. But it also means many people specifically. So it's the gods throughout the Bible, never God, always the gods, the people who were advanced, who came and delivered wisdom and who delivered wrath. it was the gods, and that can mean many different races. It doesn't have to be one race. And so it opens out. He found spaceships in there all through it. He got fired before he got done with the translation. But you can find Mauro Baglino's videos where he just sits in a classroom. He's talking to 10 people, and it's on video. So you have this incredible documented talk by a guy who knows what he's talking about and who is telling us that the scriptures were correct, but they've been mistranslated.
Wow. And that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, mate. You know, I think our again, it comes back to the controlled narrative, you know, and I think the more and more we have conversations like this, the more and more, and look, the thing is, I haven't done it to a waitress, but I've done it to many people as well. Hey, stop here. Listen. There's megalithic structures all over the earth. There's symbols that echo all over the earth. It's the same culture. There was a sacred spiritual culture. We're all one. And people look at you like you were crazy. But what we're doing there, Jock, is we're planting seeds, man. You know, so like that waitress may have gone home and gone, that crazy guy, that's one of the crazier guys I've had today. However, in a month's time, she might start thinking about it and go, hey, maybe I should just have a bit of a look into this stuff. And then that opens up the rabbit hole for her, you know, and it opens up. And the thing is, what I say to people, Jock, is that, listen, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. However, I bear no responsibility from where you end up in the rabbit hole if we start talking, okay? I can't, you know, I'm 10 miles deep. I don't have a torch. I don't know where I am, you know, but I wouldn't be anywhere else either. You know, I think if we're in this rabbit hole and we're talking openly and honestly about these ideas, and as I said, yours has got weight. There's questions there that need to be answered, and you know, maybe that big silica spaceship that was hovering over the Earth 780,000 years ago was the 3D printer. I don't know. Who knows? Like who knows? You don't know. And you know, one of the conclusions we came to with the ultra terrestrial, you know, we called it what is truly out there last week, was basically, what if it's multiple? What if we are here on this planet with multiple races and we're just the silly surface dwellers, and they still can't really figure out why we hang around on the surface because it's crazy, and we got out of control. Yeah, basically, I think, you know, we got out of control, and you know, maybe hopefully with some guidance and openness and understanding, we can get to a point where we have understanding of our past. We have an understanding of how old we are and where we actually come from, because I don't think we do at the moment. I don't, you know, we just, there's multiple theories, but I don't think we understand it right now.
Well, the controllers are absolutely obsessed, I think more than in any other realm, with making sure that our past is obscured.
Well, mate, let's. I think we could talk forever. However, it's late where you are, and I do appreciate you staying up for us this time around. Where did you want to finish, mate? Have you got anything you wanted to finish on, or is there a final topic?
Let's see if I can find. Okay, this is the book I've been writing for a couple of years. Who Built the Earth? The subtitle is An Exploration of Geological, Geophysical, Seismological, and Astrophysical Evidence for an Earth Constructed by an Advanced Race or Races in the Distant Past.
Yeah.
Now, this is all premised on the idea that the Big Bang did not happen, because for advanced races to build planets,
need time.
If the Big Bang, if you need time to advance. So when we realize that science is telling us the Big Bang did not happen, that's what our science is telling us. The universities are not passing on the science. The universities are passing on.
No, it was actually years ago. Years ago, Jock, that the math suggested that the Big Bang didn't actually really happen. Yeah,
right.
That's if you pay attention.
It's been at least 30 years, 30 solid years and since then, professors have been getting fired for advancing evidence that there was no Big Bang. You can ridicule the people who defund them, and there's all sorts of ways to make sure that the general public doesn't hear from the academics who realize there was no Big Bang. So little by little, so instead of having real professors telling us what's happening, we've got these TV scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kaku, who are both total Big Bang fanatics. And it's like, I mean, I'm a playwright. I could debate them and totally shut them down. And give me 1 hour, I could shut both of them down. They're both really smart dudes, but look, the science speaks. And you don't have to be a genius. All you have to do is cite the science. All you have to do is be someone who understands English, and you can show that the Big Bang did not happen according to science. So if the Big Bang did not happen, then advanced races did have the time to advance. They could build planets. It doesn't say that they did, but they could build planets. How would they do it? Your idea, the 3D printing, is the same idea I came up with. Just build a machine that prints a planet. You know how fast we have advanced in 3D printing? We're just this silly, distracted race that's doing all sorts of frivolous stuff. There's millions of girls on TikTok just doing nothing, and yet the 3D printing industry has advanced from zero in 50 years, from zero to being able to print a house or a bridge.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable what we've done in 50 years. Imagine having 50 million years or 50 billion years to advance 3D printing. Imagine. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Exactly. I mean, and I do think the timelines are out, mate. I do think, if, it's, and look, the giant thing is interesting. There is too much. We work here at Unlocking the Code, Jock, on a 1% rule, right? We take in all theories, we take in all perspectives, and then we go, what if 1% is true?
Right.
Because, if you think about all the evidence of giants, and there's a lot of it, what if it's realistic to say that 1% of that is true. It's realistic to say you could go to those big footprints and look at it and go, yeah, that's a big footprint, right? If 1% is true, then the whole thing changes. And as we discussed earlier, we have no idea about the hominin record on this planet. No idea. We really don't, And so many of these things through your work, you're questioning some very big things, Jock. And I love that, because I know through my research that a lot of the stuff you're questioning is built on beds of sand anyway. So it needs to be questioned. We need to have the courage to look at these things and question them, And I think, mate, look, I think we might leave it there. I know what you wanted to do. One of the things we discussed is that in the next little while, look for as soon as you get your Patreon page up, mate, you let me know. I'm going to redo a Patreon page for the Terraforming of Terror. That's the start of the Patreon page. I'm going to redo the Unlocking the Code Patreon page. Look, the work that me and Jock both do takes a lot of time. We put a lot into it. However, it'd be awesome if you guys could help us along the way and, help us be part and contribute more. Obviously, you think no one cares, Jock, stop paying your bills. Like unfortunately, in this 3D realm at the moment, we need some funding. And if people could help us out with that, that would be awesome.
You know, my whole life, I've never ever asked for help. I mean, this has been this sort of. My mom is a full-blood Swede, and we have this Swedish sort of. It's like you work hard and you don't ask for help, and that's it.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm to the point, literally in the last few weeks, I've gotten to the point where in my gut, it feels okay to ask for help. Having made so many videos, having been in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex for almost 2 years. And I feel like, if I can get people to support my work through Patreon, it's going to really, really blossom, and I really am excited about it. And I know that you also had said that you're not a person who asks for help.
No,
so
definitely
I think both
not.
of us have come at about the same time. We're both realizing that it's okay to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, I mean, this podcast has been going for 4 years. I think you're going to be episode 135. Like, I've done half a dozen field trips and all of that stuff. And I've taken people on the field trips with me, and I sort all the stuff out, and it's and I don't ask for help. I am one of those guys that does everything for myself. However, in order to advance some of these things that we're talking about, in order to do better quality work and all those sorts of things, we do need assistance. We do need help. And if that help came in someone popular sharing our platform so it gets more exposure, then that's help too. However, any assistance we can be given, I think we both believe that the work that we're doing is important. Hopefully one day, when we get through the looking glass, we can get together, Jock, and as you say, throw those prawns on the barbie, and you can take me around Texas, and then maybe you can come to Australia and we can go for a trip around there, a trip out the back here as well. And I think, I know you said you've taken people out, and that's something I want to do as well. Like, I do want to, that's part of the Patreon stuff, where I'd love to get a bunch of supporters together and go on a field trip, come and have a look at some of this stuff. Let's, you don't have to take my word for it. Let's come and have a look. Let's do these sorts of things. And, I think asking for help is okay. It's not like we haven't put the time in. It's not like we haven't done the evidence. And I think, as you can tell from my rambling and your rambling, it's difficult for us to do this. So
I've had a fantasy since I was in Bosnia of starting a tour called the Ancients Were Crazy tour, because the amount of work they did. Let's say there is 100,000 plus pyramids as Semiramis Matigic posits on our planet. The amount of work to make 100,000 plus pyramids, plus the tunnel systems associated with those, plus the tumuli associated with those. Then you've got the possibility that the continents themselves were terraformed. Imagine the amount of work. So the ancients had to be crazy, to put in that much work,
Yeah.
So I would call my tours the Ancients Were Crazy tour, and just be like, look how much work they did, and look how meticulous they were. They must have been absolutely obsessed with doing a good job of making a continent, or doing a good job of making a pyramid, or doing a good job of making a dolmen. Just the endless features of the earth. Wow, it's so amazing. So that's what I'm always in. It's a constant state of amazement when I go out into the field, and I feel like I want to bring that excitement to it, because there's nobody else out there. It's only me. I've never seen a geologist in my 1,000+ hours of field work. I've never seen geology students. I've never seen anybody except for private property owners in the distance going, "Who's that guy in our creek bed?" So, it's like, I want to share this, and the only way I can do it is through video. There's no one else around. It's just me out on the continent by myself. So the only way I can share it is through the video, and I'm just trying to get those out as much as I can.
Yeah, and I look, and just a public appreciation for you redoing the last video as well. That was awesome that you did that for me, mate, and I do really appreciate that. That's not a skill set that I have. It's one that I'm developing. And listen, man, look, I love sitting down with you, and I think, there's plenty more conversations to be had. Maybe next time we step away from the terraforming and megalith stuff, and maybe Maybe we step into a consciousness realm or something along those lines. We'll have a think about it, and for the next time we talk, mate. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something special for you, Jock. So behind me, I've got 3 books, okay, and they're warrior wisdom books, okay. Now, over the years of the podcast, when we sit here in the refinery, we grab one of the books out and we see what it has to say for us, okay. And every time it's spookily accurate about what the conversation we've talked about. I'm just going to have to take the headphones off so I can reach them. Hang on.
Yeah.
Because I said Warrior Wisdom, I thought that was the book. This is a guy called Bodie Sanders. He's an interesting cat. My wife got me these books a few years ago. They're very interesting. So I'm going to do, I'll go on video so no one can say I didn't close my eyes. Or that's the page. Okay. To know and to act are one and the same. Is that not what we're trying to do? We are trying to know and act. To know and to act are one and the same. And this one's interesting as well, mate. For opportunity knocks at your door just once, and in many cases you have to decide and to act quickly. I think, brother, that may be some personal messages for both of us. That might not be for listeners. That may be for us. However, yeah.
You know, the animals act through their knowing, and their knowing is a different knowing than we think of, because we think of knowing as this conscious left brain. I learned this in school thing, but the knowing that I think that the Warrior Wisdom book is talking about is more of a
instinctual knowing.
Right, the way the animals do it, because it's like you never see an animal off balance. Mm-hmm. The animal always knows what to do from
and
within.
Where it is,
right, and takes the next step. The cat takes the next step from within. He's not going, what should I do now? No way. It's from within every time. So he's acting through the knowledge is being shown to us, manifesting through the action. We see how much he knows, and when he falls off a roof, he spirals around and lands on his feet because he knows exactly what to do. No one taught him to do that.
No, that's right, man. And I think if we stepped away from our hubris and accessed the inner animal inside of us all, we could act a little bit with more pure intent. You know what I mean? I think there's definitely something to that. It's definitely something to that.
I mean, a plant knows to grow to the sun. And it never went to university. You know, we don't need the universities to know what's real.
That's true, man. That's very true. Let's leave it there. That's perfect. Good on you, Jock. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Triffin. I really appreciate it.
Talk soon, mate. Cheers.